Hey everybody, welcome to Age of Reason. Today with me is Jeremy Deschner, Jiu-Jitsu Jedi.
I'm glad to be back. It's been a while since we've done a show.
Yes.
Yeah, so we had a few months off, actually.
Oh yes. Yeah. The reason is, like I stated on my page, I was writing a book. I'm still writing the book. And when it's out, I will promote it. It's a very interesting story, so please support it when it's out. And so today we're going to talk about mostly the DNC party.
I'm talking about the real owners now. The big, the wealthy, the real owners, the big wealthy business interests that control things and make all the important decisions. Forget the politicians. They're irrelevant. The politicians are put there to give you the idea that you have freedom of choice. You don't. You have no choice. You have owners. They own you. They own everything. They own all the important land. They own and control the corporations. They've long since bought and paid for the Senate, the Congress, the state houses, the city halls. They got the judges in their back pockets, and they own all the big all the big media companies. So they control just about all of the news and information you get to hear. They got you by the balls. They spend billions of dollars every year lobbying to get what they want. Well, we know what they want. They want more for themselves and less for everybody else. But I'll tell you what they don't want. They don't want a population of citizens capable of critical thinking. They don't want well-informed, well-educated people capable of critical thinking. They're not interested in that. That doesn't help them. That's against their interest. That's right. You know something? They don't want people who are smart enough to sit around the kitchen table and figure out how badly they're getting fucked by a system that threw them overboard 30 fucking years ago. They don't want that. You know what they want? They want obedient workers. Obedient workers. People who are just smart enough to run the machines and do the paperwork and just dumb enough to passively accept all these increasingly shittier jobs with the lower pay, the longer hours, the reduced benefits, the end of overtime, and the vanishing pension that disappears the minute you go to collect it. And now they're coming for your Social Security money. They want your fucking retirement money. They want it back, so they can give it to their criminal friends on Wall Street. And you know something? They'll get it. They'll get it all from you sooner or later, because they own this fucking place. It's a big club, and you ain't in it.
We have so many news sources. People watch CNN, Fox News, like they listen to the radio, everything. Everything goes. How do you determine these days what is true or not?
Oh, that's a good question. Well, first thing, you have to look at all the places that you mentioned just now, all the news sources. I think that those guys all have agendas. So it's going to be tainted a little bit to the left or a little bit to the right, you know, no matter who you follow as out of all those people that you just mentioned, because they have advertising and they have to make money every month to pay off their hot model anchors.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a business basically. It's no different than running a TV show. So a lot of the news that I get, I try to find off of Twitter, because what I do is I'll get a story and I'll look at something, and if it's interesting to me and I want to know more about it, I'll start going in and start looking for that information on Google, and I'll start looking at different sources. And I think you have to compare a little bit to the left, a little bit to the right, and somewhere after all that research, you'll end up somewhere in the middle, and hopefully you'll be you'll have the real information.
Unfortunately, like I said on my page all the time, in my opinion, most people don't do enough research, or they read misleading articles or misinformation, and that's obviously no good. So the first thing here is just this article I shared on my page a few days ago. It's the title is How America Lost Its Mind. It's a very good article. Please read it. It goes into a lot of details. I'm not going to cover it now. So this quote is from Glenn Greenwald, the lawyer, who was, of course, very famous during the Snowden period. So that's what he said during one of his speeches. He said, when you are somebody who is expressing views that are not typically heard or appreciated or understood, when you're trying to be an advocate for people who are voiceless, it's often necessary to engage in a far greater degree of aggression in order to force your arguments into public consciousness, in order to force to be heated, in order to mobilize other people to be inspired by it.
You go to social media and you say something that someone disagrees with, and then automatically 10 people shit on it. So that's basically what he's talking about on a bigger scale. So in the case of Snowden, of course, Snowden went across the line, and he let out some papers that were not supposed to be, seen by public view. Do you think he's a hero? Do you think he's a criminal? It's up to the individual. I think people who have an agenda, there's stuff that they want covered up, but the fact that they want it covered up probably means it's illegal. So it's kind of a little bit of a scary situation right there.
The main point of the show today is to talk about this post. So this is a post by Robert Reich, and I like Robert Reich. He's a good guy. He's a very smart guy. Says a lot of things that I agree with. And yet, here in one of his resistance reports back in August, he was talking about how Trump is doing business with Russia, which, in my opinion, this is not a winning strategy for the Democrats to keep screaming Russia, Russia, Russia.
So this goes back to our basics of logic. If you want to make a claim, you have to have evidence to support your claim. So if they want to keep saying Russia, 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 Trump's doing a bad thing, give us one little piece of evidence. Say, look, here's what we're talking about. Here's what you can look at it, hold it, test it. It's evidence. They haven't done that yet. I haven't seen anything yet.
Me neither.
So it's just like a claim of supernatural or a god.
Yeah.
Unless you have a little piece of evidence, something you can show me, something I can test, something I can measure, then my default is to not believe it.
Yeah. We're in November now. It's been a year since the election, and they're still on it. Yeah. They're still on this story. So anyway, I commented back on this post, and I'm not going to read this one. You can pause the video and read it on yourself. But basically what it says is that, the DNC and the Republican Party are essentially the same thing. They do the same things. They take corrupt money. They're used by the same corporations. They're not there to help the people. They're not there for you. A lot of people who voted for Obama back in, that would be 2012, I guess, they voted for Trump, not for Clinton. Immediately, one of the people just calls me liar and troll. So how am I a troll? How am I a liar? The DNC rigged primaries in favor of the corporatist who felt she was entitled to votes without actually campaigning. They cheated and they still lost. This is a party that's completely wiped out, and you have to be delusional not to see this. And the Democratic Party was completely wiped out during the 8 years of Obama. Slowly but surely, they lost seats everywhere.
And then they pulled that big old cheating deal with Bernie Sanders,
right,
where they basically tanked him on purpose.
Yeah.
And that was shooting themselves in the foot, because that was the person who could beat Trump.
Yes.
And because they left us with a choice of diarrhea or poop. You can have Donald Trump, which is diarrhea, or you can have Hillary Clinton, which is poop. It's not a good choice either way.
No.
Yeah, either way, it's gross and it's terrible.
So this is just to my point. This is Rory Cooper. He's a Republican strategist, and he said under President Obama, Democrats have lost 900 plus state legislature seats, 12 governors, 69 House seats, and 13 Senate seats. That's some legacy. Even though a lot of people were caught cheating during the primaries. Right. Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who was the DNC chair at the time, she was caught cheating, openly supporting Clinton, even though that's not allowed. She was actively campaigning for Clinton, even though she should have been impartial.
Right.
And she didn't do that. And guess what? After the primaries were over, she still won re-election in Florida.
Yeah, but you're talking about Florida.
Yeah.
You're talking about 4 teeth, straw hats, overalls, banjos. Yeah, those guys, look at several elections. Look at several presidential elections and look how much everything's been fucked up by Florida. Even if you go back to like 1940s cartoons of Bugs Bunny, there's always cartoons of Bugs Bunny sawing off Florida going, that's better.
That's true.
Because it sends it off into the ocean, right?
That's true.
Yeah, because it's been that way for a long time.
This is also, just to complement my point, this is actually George Clooney talking here. So he's speaking... Batman. The bad Batman.
The worst Batman.
Here he was speaking to NBC's Meet the Press. The actor was asked by host Chuck Todd whether the sums involved in this events, such as $350,000 a couple to be a co-chair, were, as critics and protesters have said, obscene. Yes, he said, I think it's an obscene amount of money. George Clooney hosted the big money fundraiser for Hillary Clinton in California anyway. So it's like, okay, he's saying that it's not good, but I'm still gonna hold the fundraiser.
He's still the worst Batman. Yeah, but my point is, he's an actor. He'll say whatever you pay him to say.
Yeah.
You know, if the money's there, he'll do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this is what Clinton just did. She's like, is this enough? Is this enough? Is this enough? And finally he's going to go, yeah, that's enough. I'll do whatever you want for that amount of money.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's no different than the other people they're dealing with. Yeah, he just buy, different price than everybody else.
So when Trump was elected president, he had to choose his cabinet members, right?
Right.
And they all had to go through approval hearings, not ratings, hearings. So you would think that the Democrats, as the party of resistance, they would oppose Trump nominations, right? And yet you see that Joe Manchin, for example, he's the worst. He voted for most of them, to approve most of them. Claire McCaskill, she voted for people like Perry. Perry is our, what is he? He's the Department of Energy guy.
Yeah, and during his election election run bid for presidency, he couldn't remember the Department of Energy as one of the one of the main departments that he wanted to close down.
Yeah.
And now because he said he wanted to close it down and suddenly he's in charge of it, what does that tell you, man? I mean, that's that guy's crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's a nutbag. He's a religious nutbag from Texas.
There's Ben Carson somewhere in there.
Carson, right there.
And there are people who voted for him too. There are people who voted for Scott Pruitt, who is now the guy leading the EPA, who thinks climate change is a hoax.
I don't understand how these people get vetted. Yeah.
Yeah.
If you don't believe in environmental change and climate change,
Yeah.
you can't run that agency that controls that.
That's right.
Yeah. You can't be a criminal and be the chief of police.
Yeah.
It just doesn't work.
Yeah.
What are they thinking?
So Claire McCaskill. So this is a bit different story, but this is Ajit Pai. He's the guy who was nominated by Trump to be the head of the FCC. So you know, of course, what the FCC is.
Right.
They're kind of censor guys.
Right.
So what she says is, I disagree with Pai on net neutrality, which is a huge issue these days, by the way, and people don't talk enough about net neutrality.
Right.
Do you know what net neutrality means?
Yeah, but go ahead and explain it to the listeners in case they don't know.
In a nutshell, what it is that it will allow corporations, big corporations, to throttle the internet to their advantage.
Yes.
And also, from what I hear, eliminate information that they don't like.
Right now, the internet's kind of the wild, wild west, and they want to put their hands on it. They want to control it. But if you think about how much the internet has changed the world, I mean, you had the uprising in Libya and took out Gaddafi. That was all because of Twitter and social media and people being able to communicate.
Yeah, the Arab Spring.
The Arab Spring in a way that was not conventional at the time for them, and they changed the way their country worked through social media. So now what's happening is that Big Brother wants to control that and stop that from happening, or control when and where it happens, which I think is kind of gross.
Yeah.
That it should just be free and everyone should just be able to go crazy on there, right?
Equally.
Yeah, equally.
Yeah. So what she says here is that she disagrees with this FCC head on net neutrality, but the president has a right to the chairman because he won the election. So this is your resistance. This is your resistance. These are the people who basically just fold up. The DNC may be struggling to solidify a platform. You miss the issue of basic principles, morality, and compassion, all far more in evidence among Democrats than among Republicans. Those guiding values will be reflected no matter what happens with the DNC. Well, that's a fallacy right there.
I disagree with that completely, yeah.
And Democrats in general. That fuel will propel Democrats forward. The issue on who's steering and what roles may be taken is of concern, but the direction will be forward progressive. That's the thing. The Democrats are not progressive. I wish they were.
And once again, it shows evidence of them being progressive. They're stagnant. They don't move forward. They wish it was 1952 and they want to just stay in that little area, but we've gone past that as a society, I think. And also the point where he brings up morality is evidenced, and compassion is evidenced among Democrats. Once again, where's your evidence?
Yeah.
Show me evidence of that. I don't see anything. And their morality should be derived from empathy.
Yes.
But how are they going to be empathetic to people who are in different financial situations than they are? The Democratic Party, all of them are millionaires.
Yes.
There's not $100,000 heir.
Yeah,
they're all millionaires up there, right?
Yeah.
And how are they going to be sympathetic to people who could lose their health insurance, who could have less than $500 in their bank account on a monthly basis?
Yeah.
They don't have these kind of problems, so they never have had those kind of problems. Probably generations of their families haven't had these kind of problems.
Right.
And they never have to worry about basically losing their job because they can just keep paying people, lying,
making
phone calls, and then they get to keep their job until they're 100.
Yeah.
Which we saw with Throm Sturman or whatever.
They are, yeah.
Yeah, he was being wheeled in a wheelchair.
I know.
And you just push him off in the corner, and every once in a while they hit his like medication button.
Yeah. And yet these people who, like you said, are 100, these people vote on modern things like stem cell research. Do you really think he understands stem cell research? That's this 100-year-old guy.
It's gross. And these guys were in office when there was segregation.
Right.
They think that human beings that are different based on skin color.
Right.
That's how antiquated is that idea?
Yeah.
They have no connection to the normal people. So I disapprove and disagree with his evidence of compassion and morality in the Democratic people, or even in the Republicans as well. Sure. I think they're out of touch.
Bernie Sanders was the progressive, and Democrats, what did they do? They smeared him and they robbed him of the position that he deserved. Democrats are not progressive. If they were, they'd be for single-payer healthcare, against war, better education. They would not do the bidding of big corporations, Big Pharma, Wall Street, and so on. With everything that the DNC has done since losing the election last year, there's absolutely zero indication that they will do any better in midterms or 2020. Or do you honestly mean to look me in the eyes and tell me that Hillary was a progressive?
Yeah, I just think she's a crazy old lady, and I don't think she deserved to be president. I'm not saying that's because she's a woman. I just think because of her history. I think Trump doesn't deserve to be president either. I think in that election, Bernie Sanders was a clear choice, but we didn't have that choice.
Yeah.
They cheated their way into having her there, and that was evidence. We showed that. Yeah. And then she went up against Trump, and Trump, beat her.
Yeah.
He didn't have to win the popular vote because he just played the game the way the game is supposed to be played, and he won fair and square. Like it or not, he won. Yeah.
As soon as she starts running for some position, her poll numbers go down immediately. Because she's a crappy politician. She's not charismatic. She doesn't inspire people. That's what a politician is, though, in a way. It's a kind of markets man, right?
Right. And they tried to nail her on her email, her email issue, which Trump's son-in-law did the exact same thing. She's like, I'm going to quote like Joe Rogan here. She's just a poor old lady who doesn't understand how her phone works. She doesn't understand email because email came much later than her in her prime, right? She's just given that stuff and told what to do with it. She doesn't understand what it's about. So I think some blame has to fall on their IT team.
Yeah.
Because the IT team has to be the guys who say, "Oh, we got to secure this." That's how it works in banking.
Yeah.
Your IT team secures everything. Even if you're a trader, you don't know how to run a secure mail server. You're not required to run a secure mail server because you're a trader and you hire an IT guy to do that.
Right.
So. Maybe she was an old lady who didn't understand how her phone works and understand how email works. So maybe she did screw up. Does that really disqualify her for being president? No. Being a murderer and a cheat in business and funding mass murder and the Benghazi thing, not supporting the troops, that keeps you from being president. And and I think Trump nailed her on that. I'm not a fan of Trump.
After the Democrats lost the election, in my view, Bernie Sanders was the only guy still trying to do, anything. Let's be honest there. Democrats, they were just busy shouting Russia, Russia, Russia. So what he did is that he introduced a very simple, symbolic amendment urging the federal government to allow Americans to purchase pharmaceutical drugs from Canada, where they are considerably cheaper. Of course, we have a huge problem with drug prices in the States.
Right.
Such unrestricted drug importation is currently prohibited by law. I wonder why. The policy has widespread support among Americans. One Kaiser poll taken in 2015 found that 72% of Americans are in favor of allowing for importation. Even Trump agreed with that.
It's a campaign promise. It's not really going to... You can't really hold him to that because he's trying to get elected. He's trying to win a game.
Yeah.
But why not? We're supposed to be a capitalist nation in the U.S.
Yeah.
So why not have more competition?
Yeah.
And if people in Canada can make drugs cheaper and they have not lost any of their efficacy, then why shouldn't we be able to import them?
Yeah.
That's just protecting the American drug companies.
Yeah.
And it's just throwing up a wall in front of them saying, oh, you can't mess with their market.
The Senate voted down the amendment, 52 to 46, with 2 senators not voting. Unusually, the vote was not purely along party lines. 13 Republicans joined Sanders and a majority of Democrats in supporting the amendment, while 13 Democrats and a majority of Republicans opposed it. You know Cory Booker, of course, right? The politician.
I'm not familiar with him. But
oh, okay. All right. So he's kind of the rock star of the party right now. He rushed into a burning building and saved somebody.
He's a superhero.
He's a superhero, right? So, okay, so this tough guy, he's an African American also, so he's ticking a lot of boxes, and yet, in a statement to the media after the vote, Booker's office said he supports the importation of prescription drugs, but that any plan to allow the importation of prescription medication should also include consumer protections that ensure foreign drug meat. This argument is the same one offered by the pharmaceutical industry. The pharmaceutical research company, which lobbies against importation, maintains that it opposes importation because foreign governments will not ensure that prescription drugs entering the US from abroad are safe and effective. The safety excuse is mostly a chimera, as most of the drugs that would be imported from Canada were originally manufactured in the US. They're just cheaper there, because the Canadian government uses a review board and price negotiation to make drugs more affordable.
That's interesting.
A lot of Americans, what they do is that they would drive to Canada because they can't afford that medication back home, so they drive to Canada, they buy it in Canada, and they come back to the States. Diabetes medicine, all of that. Really? It's crazy expensive in the States. I mean, people go bankrupt in our country because of medical bills.
Yeah, I mean, there's that old, I don't know if it's a true story, but there's an old story about a guy who's making $40,000 a year, and then he has to have an emergency appendectomy, and the appendectomy is $60,000. And if he didn't have it, he would have died. So now he's over a year and a quarter in debt of his salary, right?
Right.
And it's going to accrue interest every year. How is he ever going to pay that off? Yeah. Making $40,000 a year.
Along the same lines, I mean, people have student debts, which are also gigantic, and I don't think that's right either.
That's gross.
What moral ground are you talking about when we dropped over 26,000 bombs in Syria under Obama, when the Democrats blocked a bill that would allow cheaper medicine, that was just mentioned, when they overwhelmingly vote to increase the defense budget? We're going to talk about that in a second, even adding a huge bonus to it that the Pentagon wasn't even asking for. Where's the moral ground when half the country is poor? Income inequality got only worse after 8 years of Obama. This was during the election of the new DNC chair, because Wasserman Schultz got booted. So they were choosing new people, and they had basically 2 frontrunners in the end. So Keith Ellison, congressman from Minnesota, has been endorsed by leaders across the Democratic spectrum, including Bernie Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, John Lewis, leader Chuck Schumer. I'm not sure Chuck Schumer is a great endorsement, but anyway, he has captured the support of Young Progressive, with over 200 millennial leaders signing a letter backing his bid. He's a black Muslim with working class roots, seemingly an ideal combination for a party that champions diversity and economic equality.
If he's qualified, let him have a shot.
But, of course, what did the Democrats do? They voted for Tom Perez. Tom Perez, Obama's former Secretary of Labor, he entered the race late. And apparently Obama made a lot of phone calls to get him elected, which I'm not sure is allowed, by the way. But
no, to be honest. Yeah.
Anyway, he was elected. He was endorsed by Joe Biden, Eric Holder, and the leads of DNC caucuses for women. Hispanics, he's a Hispanic too, and rural voters. I just got this email a few days ago, actually, and I found it interesting. It's very relevant. So the Tom Perez guy, he just purged high-ranking Bernie and Keith Ellison supporters from the key party positions of the DNC. Guess who they put back into place, though? Major Clinton supporters. Well, of course. The DNC just doesn't get it. Even after losing more than 1,000 seats nationwide and Trump winning the White House, the DNC is doubling down on failed strategies. That's why the establishment crew is purging progressive party reformers. Team Perez wants a Republican light party, and they won't stop at anything to shut progressives out.
Let's look at the reality of what we're talking about. Clinton supporters. Both the Clintons are in their 70s, right?
Yep.
They're white people in their 70s, which means that they're, typically not going to live much longer. I mean, they could live into their 90s, so let's say they live another 20 years.
Yeah.
After that 20 years, we have 5 elections. I don't know how much of their influence is still going to be around. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. I honestly fear that she's going to run again in 2020.
Oh man, I don't think she's going to do a good job running in 2020 either.
No.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, she already lost like what 3 times. What
Yeah.
she thinks 4th is going to be lucky. No.
Yeah, and she's getting older and older and older.
Yeah.
She's a little old lady.
And she's not in touch with the country. That's the most important thing. Her ideas are not progressive.
Like Marie Antoinette, let them eat cake.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
she doesn't have any. She has no connection to the people and
Yeah.
has no idea what's going on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know your tactics. This is a funny one. Tell your boss Putin. He will not. This is not even English. He will not is. What is that? He will not is and manipulate Bernie Sanders followers to have a travesty of Trump and GOP in power.
All right, Martha Guzman, you get it. Yeah, we are all part of Putin. Yeah,
That's
the other day while I was talking to Putin on the phone.
Yeah.
Me and him talk all the time.
You know what? I wish my boss was Putin because then I'd be rich. I don't have to do this then.
I would get along good with him. I mean, I like martial arts. I mean, judo's awesome.
true.
Yeah, so
Yeah,
why
that's
not?
true.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'll roll with him.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll let him win. No worries.
I said, excuse me, my boss? Wait, did you just assume I'm Russian from my name? How very racist of you. Shame on you. I'm an American citizen living in Japan, but still paying my taxes. And I'm right in everything I've said so far. So you have no counter argument, so you scream troll. Stay classy. So this is funny to me. So of course, my parents are Russian, so like there's 1% of me that understands what she's trying to say here.
Yeah.
Only 1% though. Some guy commented on her page and he was saying, but you don't even live in America, why do you care?
Yeah.
What do you say to this type of morons, really?
Well, first thing I say to those people is I ask them, did they ever serve in the military? Most of the time they haven't. They're the rah, we support our military. Not when I have to do the shooting, though. There's those type of guys, and then that shuts them down. The second thing is like, what is an American? What makes an American? And then, if you're born there, that makes you an American. But you didn't do anything to earn the right. People who immigrate to the country, they have to study. They have to know the history. They have to take a test.
Yeah.
They have to stand up and pledge allegiance, like swear in.
Yeah.
Make a verbal swearing in. But if you're born there, you didn't have to do any of that.
Sure.
You just were given it. You see, there's this one set of videos on the internet where this guy freaks out all the time. His parents gave him a truck, and he didn't like that truck. But he starts going and getting all pissed off and kicking the truck and like slamming the door and stuff like that. But you sit back and go, dude, you're 16 and your parents just gave you a car.
Yeah.
Yeah, just you don't like the color. What's wrong with you, kid?
You can repaint it.
Yeah.
No,
Even that, but he didn't earn it.
Yeah.
His parents gave it to him.
Right.
Yeah, so he still has an opinion and wants to complain about it. Those people who are like go up to you and say, "Oh, you're not American." Well, what did you do to earn it?
Right.
You were just born here, asshole.
Yeah.
You didn't just you just showed up.
So in my post though I said that it's racist of her to assume that I'm not an American. Would you agree with that or?
I don't think the word racist is correct. It's nationalistic. Yeah, because I think Russian is Russian a race or national?
No, it's nationality.
Nationality, right?
Right.
Yeah, so I think we're all probably cooked from the same DNA source,
Yeah.
to put it simply. But I think it's nationalistic. So this is another what I call one of those rah people, right? They just want to wave flag. They want little tiny flags and they want to wave it,
Yeah.
but they haven't done anything to deserve it. They're taking all this pride and all this glory, but they haven't done dick. They haven't done anything. They just showed up with their flags.
Yeah.
Fuck them.
Anyone with facts is called a troll because they don't have any way to counter the facts. That's so true. Also, most of the people commenting on this page are very quick to point out the horrible things that Trump is doing while completely ignoring the fact that a large of them, wars, opposition to single-payer, environmental abuses, having corporate-friendly policies, etc., were started and accelerated during Obama's term. We talked about that a little bit on the last show.
During the Obama era, blah 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 happened. Yeah, but that was probably started by Bush.
Yeah.
It's just taking 8 years for that, that law to come into effect.
Yeah. If you were correct, no one would assume you to be a Russian troll. All right, so you added nothing to the discussion. Are you going to disprove anything that I just pointed out, or stick to your mainstream media hacks who work for the CNN, MSNBC, Washington Post, etc.? Most people don't want to hear the truth. They only want to hear things that confirm their bias. A lot of people don't really do proper research, what I would say.
They read headlines.
And exactly. Yeah.
They read headlines which are commonly made just so you read them.
Yeah.
Right?
Just clickbait.
It's clickbait. It's
Yeah.
just something that they put out there so it catches your eye, but people don't go in and read the article, and like they might read the article and say, "Oh, this is full of shit.
Yeah.
I don't believe this. You know,
Right.
moon landing didn't happen. You know,
Yeah.
this kind of stuff."
Because it's so short, they have to like fit it in one line on the website page.
Right.
It's very often misleading as well.
Very often misleading, and also it's got to catch your eye,
Yeah.
and it's got to catch your eye like that because people are just going to be shifting through it, right?
Right.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
But you know, Donna there, she didn't add, like you said, she didn't add anything to the conversation.
Yeah.
It's just like a, you know, me too.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, it's just a Me Too post.
Yeah.
Yeah, like when you go to like a internet site to try to figure out how to fix a virus
Yeah.
or how to fix a problem with Windows, you get all these people who post, "I have the same problem. Oh, me too.
Yeah,
Me too. Me too. Me too."
yeah.
Making it harder for you to find the solution to the post.
Correct.
Yeah.
You do realize that mainstream means middle, neither left nor right. What are your recommended news sources? I'll bet if I look them up, they'll also described as conservative or for entertainment only. No, they're not.
This Donna lady, she's really not coming up with anything. She's just
No.
kind of just fluff. You know,
Yeah.
she's just adding. She has not made a point,
Nothing. Yeah.
a single point in the conversation. She's just typing words into the air. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
Just
yeah.
nothing.
Yeah.
It's pointless. Sites are conservative or for entertainment purposes only. Name one.
You've been on my show. You know that I don't do that.
I know that you don't do that. Also, we're friends, and I know that you don't do that. Yeah, yeah. So I mean, she hasn't named one. She hasn't given an example.
Yeah, because she doesn't know me.
She doesn't know you, and she doesn't have an example of what of an entertainment only
Right.
source that you've quoted from.
Right.
Give us an example.
Yeah.
Show me one time where he's made a quote that says that's from a conservative site or a for entertainment site.
Right.
Fuck off, Donna.
He says that mainstream means middle. No, it doesn't. In what reality are news in America, mainstream, considered middle these days?
Nothing. We talked about that at the beginning of the show.
We did.
It's either left or right. There's there's no middle. You gotta take
Yeah.
you gotta take from each side and know what's in the middle.
Yes. I listen to more independent media because they're not paid by the left or the right. But again, word of caution, a lot of them are.
Yeah.
They just don't say it.
Yeah.
But they have sponsors.
Yeah, if they have sponsors and they have advertising, you have to consider there's a possibility that they might have a bias.
Yeah.
So you got to be very careful. But that's what I'm saying. You can't take from one source.
Yeah, yeah.
You have to take from all sources or a lot of sources, and then come up with something. But you got to be careful doing that as well. You can't start with an opinion and look for shit that agrees with your opinion.
Yes, yes.
You just got to have an open slate and then go, this is what this guy says, this is
Yeah.
what this guy says, this is what the third guy says. Okay, this matches, this is where they differ.
Yeah.
I'm probably going to think this way.
I know that people really are not going to read what I post anyway because they're not, like you said, they don't actually care anymore because they are convinced by a certain reality and
Right.
they're not going to budge from that reality. So I just reposted what we talked about on the show, actually, that America dropped 26,000 bombs in Syria under Obama, that 89% of Senate Democrats just helped to pass a huge defense bill, while eyes had turned to another attack on the current structure of healthcare, one that reportedly could heavily cut healthcare funding for low-income people. Something else happened. The Senate took up almost $700 billion defense bill that the House passed in July with the support of 60% of Democrats. So again, this is your resistance that's supposed to resist Trump, and yet 60% of them, in that case anyway, supported Trump. The Senate passed a measure with the support of 41 out of 46 Democrat senators. That was more than 89% of Democrats. That's crazy.
They should have to reply back to us and give us the reasons why they did that.
Right.
They can't just do that anonymously and not tell us why they did that.
Yeah.
Because we should be able to see, like, transparently, okay, the reason they voted for that is because they got X amount of cash from this corporation.
Right.
But we don't see that right now.
Right.
Right now they're just doing that shit under the table.
Yeah.
And it's all hidden from us.
Remember, please, that the Department of Defense is the only federal agency that is incapable of passing a financial audit. This should be the basic level of performance that is required of an organization being entrusted with that much money. Last year, the Pentagon tried to hide $125 billion in wasted spending that took place over a 5-year period. Bernie Sanders, of course, voted against it. Elizabeth Warren, who's the darling of the party, well, she voted for that. So she's bitching all the time. You see always clips on her on Facebook wagging her finger at some banking CEO, but she has no problem voting $50 billion more dollars for the defense bill. $50 billion could pay for a lot of stuff in our country. Could pay for education for all. Could solve maybe a few holes in healthcare.
Well, it could pay for education for everyone.
Yeah.
Forever.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, that's a lot of money, especially just if it gathers interest over time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Can you imagine that? So just 1% of the rich, very rich people in our country, they control a fifth of the overall wealth of our nation.
Yeah, we don't have to imagine it, we live it.
These are the mega rich people. They have 5% of the wealth. So this is probably like the Walton family and people like Walmart and people like that, pharmaceutical bankers, right? The productivity, as we mentioned on the last show, went up during Reagan, especially, as you can see on the graph, and yet the hourly compensation stagnated, starting from Nixon actually, because it started in 72. Top 10 income share, again, right now it's at about 50%, and the union membership, the graph doesn't go far enough. I think right now it's around 8%. It just keeps going down. Those politicians keep fighting against unions. And I think, in my opinion, we should have more unions. People should have more voice in the workplace.
I mean, I totally agree with that. But unions, we have to be very careful with because they can also be corrupt as well.
Oh, yeah.
It's just like any governing body.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, how do you regulate a union without censoring a union? You know, it gets kind of tricky.
So this Donna, she says, your research has been bandied about by every crazy Bernie bot out there. So, okay, here we go. This is this is the classic thing, right? So why did the Democrats lose so many votes in 2016 is because of people like her who shamed the left, who pointed their fingers on the left, and they said, we are better than you. It has been debunked thousands of times. Oh, sorry, I didn't know. When? Who debunked the stuff that I just showed? I don't know. My taking the time to do it again will not change your mind. At this point, I'm more inclined to think you actually live in Macedonia.
Sure.
Okay.
So she's very vapid. I mean, she just likes to, point out stuff that she has no evidence for, and just say things. Like, we're supposed to just take her word for it. Oh, it's Donna Delgado, or whatever her fucking name is. Dildo. I don't... Deldilio. And she just comes up with vapid, useless information. It's just air. It's just like someone just breathing stink breath on you. No information, no evidence. And then says, oh, you live in Macedonia.
Yeah.
Well, I'm sure nice people live in Macedonia.
Yes.
What's wrong with people from Macedonia?
I don't know.
Have you been to Macedonia?
Asked who debunked my research, and how are you saying that The Guardian, Reuters are not reliable news sources? Then what's your source? Rachel Maddow? Rachel Maddow takes huge corporate money. She never asks the tough questions. She can't, because her hands are tied by the people who pay her. Chris Hayes is another guy who's popular right now, but same thing with him. He just recently said that the book that Hillary Clinton wrote, that's full of lies, he liked it. A person who speaks the truth is now labeled as crazy by you and people like you. Here's a hint. Big reason why Hillary lost, I mean, besides the cheating, is alienating of the base, which is exactly what you're doing. Keep doing it. You're only making people hate the DNC even more. The DNC is trying to get more voters. They're not going to do that if they alienate the base. They're not connected to the workers. The workers voted for Trump mostly already. So when Joe Biden goes out there and speaks, he's appealing to people who are already going to vote for him anyway. He's not inviting new people into the party.
Right.
Another statement without evidence, she said, look up Bernie's actual Senate voting record and then get back to me. He's not as liberal as he has been talking. She
should have posted it with this thing. If she really thought that, if she really had evidence for that, then she should have posted it as a GIF or something, or as a JPEG attachment to her statement, but she doesn't. So she wants us to do her research for her. Again. First of all, nobody's perfect. But guess what? I'm for universal healthcare, tuition fee up to and including college, cheaper drugs, stricter regulation on banks, no wars, legalizing pot, etc. You're probably on the same page, right? Same page,
So now what? Where will you go from here, really? What does the DNC offer the people according to you? Is there any vision, any objective? All we see is scary DNC emails that I still get because I voted in the primaries. So I always get those scary emails, Trump, 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 Trump.
Yeah.
Give us money because Trump, Trump, Trump.
Yeah.
No reason to give you money, though.
Right.
They just scare you and ask you to shut up and fall in line and give them your money. Because of the black and white culture in the US, which I mentioned on the last show, people only see two choices, even though there are more choices. People can only understand two choices, which is almost always a false dichotomy.
Yeah.
So those people, they assume that if we didn't vote for Clinton, then that means we voted for Trump.
Right.
Well, that's what they assume.
Right. Well, it's still like Jill Stein and all those people who were also involved.
Right.
But you know, I think a lot of those mails are focused at a market that consists of people over 60. So generally in those categories of people, they try to instill fear.
Yeah.
Because they can get them to give money because they're scared. It's churches do the same thing.
Yes.
They appeal to older people who are clinging to a way that life was. They don't want change, and they're scared of what the future holds. So they can just scare the shit out of people with these kind of correctly, psychologically provoking emails.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they can get the money out of them. So I mean. Like you said in the last show, I mean, it's not black and white. There are other choices.
Because people were scared just enough. They mostly voted for Trump and Clinton, not even giving a chance to Stein and others to gain seats in the government. My hope in 2016 was that, Jill Stein is from the Green Party. I think the rule is if they get 5% of the national vote, then they are allowed to get seats in the House or something. I think that's the rule. But she didn't get anywhere near that. She got.
Yeah, I was going to say that's quite a feat if she did.
I don't usually stalk profiles, but if a person is bullshitting to that degree, I will stalk your profile and I will check you out.
Yeah.
And I checked it out, and I found it ironic that on her profile, it proudly displayed a photo of herself, proud to be with Standing Rock. You know the protests of Standing Rock during the pipeline construction.
Right, the Native Americans in the oil pipeline.
Yet Obama failed to act quickly and decisively. Before the protesters got gassed and beaten up by the police, or she's not aware of that either.
Well, they weren't successful after Trump
Exactly.
just returned everything back to the way it was before the protests. Yeah.
What happened is that in December 2014, there was this big company that applied for the permit, because you have to apply for the permit first, and it takes a while for it to get approved or rejected.
Right.
So in that case, it got approved, but almost a year and a half, almost 2 years later, actually. In November 2016, it got cold, of course. Those protesters were still there. The police were spraying them with water.
Yeah.
So in this freezing weather...
Well, they also beat the shit out of them.
And they did.
Yeah, with like sticks and stuff.
And spray pepper and all of that. December 4, it was over. Obama and the people finally made their decision. But like you said, it's irrelevant because Trump...
just overturned it.
He overturned it, yeah. This is Neil Young, the singer. He was a Bernie voter, and this is what he said. He had a concert there. He said, "It's an awakening, all here together with their non-native relatives, standing strong in the face of outrageous, unnecessary, and violent aggression on the part of the militarized local and state law enforcement agencies and National Guard, who are seemingly acting to protect the interests of the Dakota Access Pipeline, profiteers, and the cost of hundreds of thousands of taxpayer dollars above all other expressed concerns." Here's some pictures of our army. Oh, I'm sorry, I mean police.
Look at the guns these guys have. That guy's got a tear gas gun.
Yes.
That guy over there looks like he has a shotgun.
Yeah.
And this guy's got like a bear spray, something that gets hunters use for spraying bears, right?
Look at this machine there, spraying water.
When has spraying water on protesters ever shown up in history that looking good, right? Look at the civil rights era.
Yeah.
And they were spraying those guys with water and also sicking dogs on them, letting dogs bite them.
Yeah.
History's going to judge these people, man, and it's going to come back and it's going to show them for what they are.
Yeah.
Yeah, scumbags.
Here's another one. This is a picture of somebody who was hit by what appears to be a rather large rubber bullet.
Is that a rubber bullet? I've never seen one before.
I've never seen one either. It just looks like it.
Looks like it would hurt.
Another person says, "You have some valid points about the DNC. I'm also extremely frustrated by their lack of progress, their optics and messaging. Despite these issues, I would vote for the devil himself before giving the morally corrupt Republican Party my vote. The issue you say are are important to you, they will never happen in the Republican Party. They can eventually happen on the left, but the left has to win elections before anything can happen. For the greater good, the left progressives have to unite and be willing to compromise on some issues, mainly how far the left barometer can swing to actually win elections. I disagree with that because the Democratic platform is not progressive.
It's not. I mean, they've taken steps, as we've showed,
Yeah,
against progressiveness. Yeah, and also, I don't know if I like her wording here about she would vote for the devil himself.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes, the left and progressives have to unite, but that is not who the DNC is. The DNC is in dire need of reform, but according to them, reform is not required. That's why they chose Tom Perez as chair, another corporate mouthpiece. What we need is fresh faces and people who will stand up to corporate interests. Politics used to be a service, and now it's a career.
Yeah, this is what we talked about a few shows ago,
Yes.
like needing term limits.
Yes.
Yeah, we talked about it in this show as well. There's no reason to have a 75, 80-year-old, 100-year-old guy sitting there trying to make decisions about stuff that's going to affect me,
Yeah.
my kids, and my kids' kids.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And of course, they do have midterms, right? But what happens is that the incumbent is like 90% of the time winner.
Right.
So nothing changes.
Right. So that's why a term limits would make it
Get rid of
possible.
them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we have that on presidents. We
Yes.
should also have that on Congress.
This person says you have to be delusional if you can't see that the Republicans and Trump are destroying our country right now. Yes, the DNC rigged the system for Hillary and they need reform, but that is a tiny drop in the bucket compared to what the GOP did during the 2016 election and are still doing now. Get your priorities straight. We are fighting Godzilla, and you are whining about a tiny lizard.
Yeah, she's saying, yeah, we were wrong, but they're more wrong. That's a
Correct.
fallacy.
Yes.
So instead of saying they're more wrong, we have to fix our wrong.
Yes.
Yeah. So she's starting off her statement with a fallacy, period.
Of course, I pointed it out. I never said that. I know that what the GOP does, but that in no way erases what the DNC has done.
Right.
It's not a tiny drop in the bucket. By saying that it is, you're giving them a pass, which is exactly what they want. They are gangsters that are getting away with crime. You know, like politicians always dress up in suits, right?
Right.
You know who else did? Al Capone
Yeah.
and other mafia members,
Bankers.
bankers.
Yeah.
And if they get away with the crime, and they will do it again and again and again.
Mm-hmm.
Both parties are funded by big law firms, investment firms, banks, big pharma, other corporations. They don't want the small donors to tell them what to do. They do what the big donors want them to do.
Also, when we talked about like the Trump got rid of the Johnson Accord, so all they have to do is set up a church, and then they can fund it through a church, and then
That's
it's
right.
a tax
Tax-free.
deductible, tax-free donation.
That's
So
right.
Corporation A can give to Church B. That money just kind of gets washed and then
Yeah.
floats directly into politicians' pockets.
Yeah. Maxine Waters, or Waters, I should say, who's another African American, by the way. She's from California, if I'm not mistaken. Her district is dirt poor, no jobs, housing broken, no housing, broken down buildings, horrible schools that are outdated, windows broken, all of that, poorly heated. Kids are cold and aren't unsafe. So the HUD under Obama had run amok. No money was actually getting to the people. No money was fixing these buildings or creating safe housing. Yet, Maxine lives in a gated community, far removed from the people she claims to care about. She's a hypocrite, and Washington is full of them on both sides. It just goes back to what we were saying pre-show, is that one of the guys who was in the Obama administration, who was also African American, he became the head of Uber.
Right.
And now Uber is in deep shit, of course.
Right.
There was another guy who became the head of McDonald's,
Right.
and he's actively fighting against increasing the minimum wage. So that's what I'm saying. This is supposed to be the people who are part of the
That's
resistance.
some bullshit right there.
Yeah.
He's probably rich as hell, isn't
Oh
he?
yeah. Yeah. I just found it funny. James Frazier, he said, "Thank you, Hillary, for helping the DNC sabotage the primary. If Bernie had had equal support from the DNC, he would have beaten Hillary and buried Trump. Hillary doesn't believe in democracy. Hillary believes in Hillary."
Okay,
It's pretty
James.
funny.
That's got a good point there.
Do you know that she wrote a new book recently?
I haven't read it, but I know she wrote it. Yeah.
Did you see any quotes from it or anything at all from it?
No.
She refuses to take any responsibility.
She's not gonna just kind of, oh shit, guys, I fucked up.
Yeah.
And that would make her more endearing to me if she just went, I screwed up, sorry.
Yeah.
But no, she's not going to do that. She's a gross garbage person. She's just going to try to blame everybody else for
That's what she did,
her
yeah.
shit. She's just like I said, she's a little old lady who gets told what to do.
Yeah.
She's not going to try to take on any blame or responsibility herself.
Yeah.
She's just going to shuck it over here. Yeah.
This is from the DNC charter. So the DNC party has a charter.
Okay.
Nobody, I think, really reads it these days, but they have one, and it says national chairperson. So remember, during the primaries, it was Debbie Wasserman Schultz. She was the chairperson.
Mm-hmm.
Chairperson shall exercise impartiality and even-handedness as between the presidential candidates and campaigns. The chairperson shall be responsible for ensuring that officers and staff of the Democratic Party maintain impartiality and even-handedness. They did not do that at all.
Missed the boat on that one.
Did you know that the DNC was sued for that?
I didn't know they were sued.
Ah, okay. So that might be news for you then.
Okay.
So I have to explain this. So Mr. Spiva or Spiva, whatever his name is, he's the DNC lawyer.
The court. And does the DNC give its preference to state Democratic parties as to any particular candidate?
No, and certainly not in the presidential elections. They don't set a forth a preference, no.
What about the primaries, the Democratic primaries?
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought that was what you were referring to, Your Honor. No, the DNC does not take sides in the state primaries, presidential primaries.
What type of strategic support does the DNC provide to the state Democratic parties?
Well, I mean, actually, I don't know. I can't answer that in detail, Your Honor. But, certainly support in terms of issues, addressing issues, I think funding support and the like. So this is, okay, he's the guy who was sent by the party to defend them.
He's terrible.
He's awful.
He's terrible. He's like getting questioned. Are you high at works now? No. Is that a bad thing now? No. He's just dodging everything, and he doesn't know what to say.
Yeah.
He just wants to get out of there.
Yeah.
He just hates his life and wants to leave.
The most interesting thing is what he says here, though. He says, but here, where you have a party that's saying, we're gonna, choose our standard bearer, and we're gonna follow these general rules of the road, which we are voluntarily deciding. We could have voluntarily decided that, look, we're gonna go into a back room somewhere, like they used to do, and smoke cigars and pick the candidate that way. But that's not the way it was done. But they could have. And that would also have been their right. That's insane.
That's insane.
This is the Democratic Party, mouth talking.
Yeah.
And he's saying that it's okay for them, it's absolutely okay to go into a back room somewhere
and just decide who's going to be president. Yeah.
Wow. This lawsuit, of course, as you can imagine, was dismissed.
Yeah.
But at least we got this on record.
Yeah.
And that's great.
Those guys at the DNC are going, shut him up! Shut him up! Turn him off! Turn him off! He's getting like his phone's lighting up and shit.
Yeah.
Dude! Shut the fuck up! I dropped my cigar.
Pretty interesting. It's the list of big donations during the last election cycle. But this is important. The big banks and stuff like that are not on this list.
Oh,
okay?
you want to know a secret about that?
Go ahead.
So if I'm a big bank and I want to donate to a president, I'm not going to donate. Goldman Sachs donates billions of dollars to president. Small corporations, small LLCs that are owned by a company that's owned by another company that's owned by another company that's backed by Goldman Sachs. I'm just using them as an example. I'm not saying as a fact with them. Don't sue me. So that's what happens. There's a paper trail that leads back to the big banks.
Right.
But you can't have their name. Even when they buy stocks. Stocks is the same way. If you see Goldman Sachs jump in and buy $10 million worth of this new company, everyone's going to start buying that company. It's going to go, the price is going to go up. So what they have other companies that they own that are trading companies that buy it for them. But if you trace it back, then the ownership is actually back to Goldman Sachs, right?
For example, the Elliott Management Corporation. Did you ever hear about this company? I never heard of them.
No.
And what are they? They're a hedge fund management firm. Well, of course.
Of course they are.
Of course. And there's another one, Renaissance Technologies. I never heard of them either. What do? It's a New York American investment management firm.
Okay.
There's Paloma Partners, I think. So who are they? They're a hedge fund management.
Yep.
Pritzker Group. That's a funny group, Pritzker. What are they? They're a capital base. So a lot of financial interests. And guess what happens? They're not just giving donations, they're getting access to the future president or future Congress people or anything like that.
Yeah.
That's what they want.
Yeah.
By the way, don't take anything that I say on faith. Please do your own research. That's what I always encourage on my page. I know you do on your page as well. Don't just trust people blindly. I do the best I can for every show to prepare, but there might be some holes here and there. Please point it out in the comments section if you find.
If you're going to point stuff out, have your evidence with it. Like I was saying during the show, what's her name was just putting out fluff, and she was making claims with no evidence. If she made a claim and then she had, here's the evidence attached to it, look at this, blah blah blah, look at this, then we have a harder time refuting that.
Yeah.
Otherwise, she's just wasting space on a Facebook page and wasting everyone's time with a Me Too post. It's important that we vote. They make it hard for us, and they do that on purpose. You know, especially if you live overseas, they make it difficult for you to vote. And but the thing is, if you just put a little bit of effort into it, you can do it, right? So they can't physically stop you from doing it, but if you put it'll take you a little bit of effort. But if you do that effort, you can actually do it. And if more of us voted, we can affect change. And that's what people have been saying for a long time, and I think that's true.
Especially before this last election cycle, I was blue through and through. So, in a way, perhaps irresponsibly, yes, I would have voted just anybody, as long as they're Democrat and not Republican. Now I'm not. Now I'm more independent, leaning independent or looking around for better options.
Right.
Were you kind of similar case or
different? I would default to blue. If I didn't know anything about either candidate, default to blue. But in cases where I knew a little bit about a candidate, I might choose an independent, or I might choose, something other than blue, because it just depends on who is going for that job. Were they qualified for that job? And sometimes, in some cases, they're not good. They're not good for that job, so I wouldn't vote for them. So it's always with me. I don't just punch the bottom of the cards as all Democrat. I go through each one and I look at the names, and before I go and vote, I try to have a little bit of information about each person and what they're running for.
Okay, well, that's it for our show today. I hope you enjoyed it. We've been off for a long time, so anyway, thank you for watching, and we'll be back next month. Hey, if you like the show, please support us on Patreon, and we also have a shop with a lot of stuff, so get your mugs, shirts, pillow covers, etc.